Meet a typical couple, both 32. He makes $89,000 as an engineer. She makes $76,000 as a nurse. Combined, $165,000. They bought a $385,000 house in a good school district. Put down 20%. Now they're paying a $308,000 mortgage at 6.5%. Monthly payment with taxes and insurance, $2,800. They did everything right. Saved, bought responsibly. The bank approved them for $550,000, but they went lower. Here's the part nobody mentions. Over 30 years, they'll pay $700,380 total. That's $392,380 in interest, more than the loan itself. At 62, when they make that final payment, the bank will have extracted nearly $400,000 from them. For the privilege of spreading payments over 30 years instead of 7, think there's a better way? There is. This video shows how regular people pay off 30-year mortgages in 5 to 7 years. No lottery wins, no ramen diets, no gimmicks. My name is Bobby, and I spend way too much time thinking about how the mortgage industry has convinced Americans that 30 years of debt is normal, responsible, and unavoidable. If you're someone who's staring down decades of mortgage payments and wondering if there's an escape route, make sure to hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up if this helps you out. Here's the thing. We've been sold this story that a 30-year mortgage is the smart play. It keeps your monthly payment low. It gives you flexibility. It lets you afford more house. Everyone does it. It's the American dream, right? Except it's one of the most expensive financial decisions you'll ever make, and almost nobody talks about the actual cost. What actually happened is that the mortgage industry, banks, and real estate interests successfully normalized debt servitude for 3 decades of your life, and they made it seem like the fiscally responsible choice. They called it leverage. They called it good debt. They told you not to pay it off early because you could earn more in the stock market. And here's what they didn't tell you. The average 30-year mortgage holder refinances or moves within 7 to 10 years anyway. According to data from the National Association of Realtors, the median length of homeownership is about 13 years. That means most people never even finish paying off their 30-year mortgage. They sell, they refinance, they move, and they start the whole process over again with a brand new 30-year loan. They spend their entire lives making mortgage payments and never actually owning their home free and clear. They're perpetually in debt, perpetually paying interest, perpetually enriching banks while telling themselves they're building wealth through homeownership. Let me take you back to 1950 for a second, because understanding the history is crucial to understanding how we got here. In 1950, the typical mortgage was a 15-year loan. And even that was considered a long time. Before the Great Depression, most mortgages were 5 to 10 years with balloon payments at the end. The 30-year mortgage was introduced during the Depression as part of the New Deal to make homeownership more accessible. It was designed to lower monthly payments so more people could qualify, and it worked. Homeownership rates climbed from under 44% in 1940 to nearly 65% by 1970. The 30-year mortgage opened the door to homeownership for millions of American families. That's the good part. But here's what changed. In 1950, the median home price was about $7,400. The median household income was about $3,300. That means a median home costs 2.2 times median household income. Fast forward to 2024, the median home price is about $420,000. The median household income is roughly $75,000. That's 5-6 times median household income. Houses became dramatically more expensive relative to what people earn, and the 30-year mortgage became the enabler of that inflation. It allowed prices to climb higher and higher because buyers weren't thinking about the total cost. They were thinking about the monthly payment, and as long as the monthly payment fit in the budget, the total price almost didn't matter. Banks loved this. Real estate agents loved this. Home builders love this, because a buyer who can afford a $2,000 monthly payment on a 15-year mortgage at $250,000 can afford a $2,000 monthly payment on a 30-year mortgage at $375,000. The longer the loan term, the more expensive the house they can afford and the more interest the bank collects. The 30-year mortgage isn't a tool for homeowners. It's a tool for extracting maximum wealth from homeowners over maximum time, and we've been conditioned to accept it as normal. Now, you might be thinking, Bobby, this doesn't apply to me. I got a good interest rate. My payment is affordable. I'm investing the difference in my 401k like I'm supposed to. And look, maybe you've run the math and that's the right play for your situation. But let me walk you through what actually happens when you commit to a 30-year mortgage, and I want you to be honest with yourself about whether this is the life you want. Let's go back to our couple with the $308,000 mortgage at 6.5% interest. Their payment is $1,945 per month. Here's what most people don't understand about how mortgage amortization actually works. In the first year of that loan, they'll pay $23,340 in principal and interest. Of that $23,340, only $3,357 goes toward principal. The other $19,983 goes straight to the bank as interest. They're paying $20,000 to the bank and only $3,000 toward actually owning their house. That's 86% interest in year 1. Let that sink in. By year 5, they've made 60 payments totaling $116,700. Of that, only $19,847 has gone toward principal. They've paid nearly $97,000 in interest and still owe $288,153 on the house. They're 5 years in and they've barely made a dent. By year 10, they've paid $233,400 total. They've reduced the principal by $44,238. They still owe $263,762. They're a third of the way through the loan term, and they've only paid off 14% of the house. This is the structure of a 30-year mortgage. It's front-loaded with interest. The bank gets paid first. For the first 15 years, the majority of every payment is interest. You're not building equity. You're funding the bank's profit margin. And here's the psychological trap. Because the payment is affordable, because it fits in the budget, because you're making progress however slow, it feels fine. It feels responsible. You're a homeowner. You're building wealth. But you're not building wealth. You're paying rent to a bank with the illusion of ownership. True ownership only happens when the debt is gone. Until then, the bank owns your house. You're just paying them for the privilege of living in it. And here's where it gets really insidious. Because the payment is low and affordable, you make other financial decisions based on having that payment forever. You buy cars with payments. You take on student loans. You fund your lifestyle right up to your income because, hey, you can afford it. The monthly payment works. This is exactly the trap. You've structured your entire financial life around permanent debt, around permanent payments, around never actually being free. The 30-year mortgage isn't just a loan. It's a lifestyle. It's a mindset. It's the foundation of a financial identity built on leverage and liabilities instead of assets and ownership. A 2023 study from the Federal Reserve found that the average American household carries $103,358 in mortgage debt. For households with mortgages, the average balance is actually $244,498, and the average homeowner has been paying on their current mortgage for 8.3 years. They're not even a third of the way through. Most of them will refinance or move before they ever finish. They're on a treadmill, running hard, sweating, exhausted, and going nowhere. The mortgage industry has created a system where people work for 30 years to pay off a loan. They'll probably refinance or leave before it's done, and then they'll start over with another 30-year loan. It's brilliant. If you're a bank, and here's what really gets me, the advice you get from traditional financial advisors often makes this worse. They tell you not to pay off your mortgage early. They say you should invest the extra money instead because the stock market returns 10% on average, and your mortgage is only costing you 6.5%. The math says keep the mortgage and invest. And on paper, in a spreadsheet, assuming perfect market returns and perfect discipline, they're right. But humans don't live in spreadsheets. Here's what actually happens. You keep the 30-year mortgage because the math says it's optimal. You intend to invest the difference, but life happens. The car breaks down. The kid needs braces. You want to take a vacation because you've been working so hard and you deserve it. The money that was supposed to go to investments gets absorbed by lifestyle and unexpected expenses. And even if you do invest it, you're taking on risk. Market risk, sequence of returns risk, the risk that when you need that money, the market is down 30% and you're forced to sell at a loss. Meanwhile, the mortgage payment is guaranteed. It's due every month no matter what the market does. You've kept the certain cost and added uncertain returns. That's not optimization. That's hope masquerading as strategy. Now, you might be thinking, okay, Bobby, but what am I supposed to do? I can't just write a check for $308,000 and pay off my house. I don't have that kind of money sitting around. And I hear you, that's exactly the trap. You can't pay it off because you structured your entire financial life around having the payment. But here's the mindset shift that changes everything. You need to stop thinking about your mortgage as a 30-year commitment and start thinking about it as a 5 to 7-year prison sentence that you're going to escape from through focused intensity. Here's what I mean. Most people treat their mortgage like it's a fixed, permanent feature of their financial landscape. It's just there. It's background noise. They make the minimum payment and move on with their lives. They accept it. The alternative approach is what I call the debt elimination sprint. You treat mortgage payoff as your single highest financial priority for a compressed period of time. Not forever, not 30 years. 5 to 7 years of absolute focus. You restructure your entire financial life around getting out of debt as fast as humanly possible. And then, once you're free, you redirect that energy toward building wealth. Let me make this concrete. Let's go back to our couple making $165,000 combined with the $308,000 mortgage at 6.5%. Their minimum payment is $1,945 per month. Let's say their take-home after taxes is about $118,000 per year, or $9,833 per month. Here's what their budget probably looks like right now. Mortgage, property tax, and insurance is $2,800. 2 car payments total about $900. Groceries, utilities, insurance, gas, and basic living expenses are maybe $3,500. Dining out, entertainment, subscriptions, shopping, and discretionary spending is another $1,500. They're probably contributing 6% to their 401ks to get the company match. That's about $825 per month. Add it up, and they're spending roughly $9,525 per month. They've got $300 left over at the end of the month. Maybe, if nothing goes wrong. At this pace, they'll pay off their mortgage in 30 years and pay $392,380 in interest. Here's the alternative. They decide to eliminate the mortgage in 6 years. To do that, they need to pay about $4,620 per month toward the mortgage instead of $1,945. That's an extra $2,675 per month. Where does that money come from? First, they stop all retirement contributions temporarily, except the minimum to get the company match. That frees up about $400 per month. I know. You've been told never to stop investing, but hear me out. If they pay off the house in 6 years instead of 30, they'll save $392,380 in interest. That's $392,380 they can invest. They'll make up those 6 years of missed contributions in about 3 years after the house is paid off. Second, they sell 1 car and become a 1-car household for 6 years. One of them bikes to work, carpools, or works from home a few days a week. That eliminates a $450 car payment and saves another $200 per month in gas and insurance. That's $650 per month. Third, they cut their discretionary spending in half. No more dining out 3 times a week. No more impulse purchases. No more subscription services they barely use. They get intense. That saves $750 per month. Fourth, they pick up side income. He does consulting work on weekends. She picks up an extra shift per week. They're both young, healthy, and capable. They can handle 6 years of intensity. That brings in an extra $1,500 per month after taxes. Add it up. $400 from pausing retirement contributions, $650 from downsizing to 1 car, $750 from cutting discretionary spending, and $1,500 from side income. That's $3,300 per month in additional money going toward the mortgage. Combined with their base payment of $1,945, they're now paying $5,245 per month toward the house. At that rate, the mortgage is gone in 5.8 years. Total interest paid is $89,642 instead of $392,380. They save $302,738 in interest. Let me say that again. By being intense for 6 years, they save over $300,000. That's life-changing money. And here's what nobody talks about. What happens in year 7? They no longer have a mortgage payment. That $2,800 per month they were paying toward the house is now free. They can bring the second car back. They can ease up on the side hustles. They can start enjoying life again. But now they're doing it without debt, without a mortgage payment hanging over their heads. If they take that $2,800 per month and invest it in index funds earning a conservative 8% annually, in 10 years they'll have $512,000. In 20 years, they'll have $1,656,000. By the time they're 58 years old, just 26 years from now, they'll be multimillionaires with a paid-off house. Compare that to the traditional path. At 58, if they'd kept the 30-year mortgage, they'd still have 4 years of payments left. They'd have paid the bank over $300,000 in interest, and their investment accounts would be smaller because they were juggling a mortgage payment the entire time. This is the power of front-loading the sacrifice, of being weird for 6 years so you can be normal and wealthy for the rest of your life. But it requires sacrifice in the short term. It means telling friends you can't go on that ski trip. It means driving past the new car dealership even though you could technically afford the payment. It means living like you're broke even though you're making $165,000 because you're sprinting toward freedom. And here's the psychological shift that makes this possible. You have to stop measuring success by lifestyle and start measuring it by freedom. The couple with 2 car payments and a boat and annual vacations to Europe looks successful. But if they're leveraged to the hilt with $400,000 in debt, they're not successful. They're prisoners with nice stuff. The couple driving a 10-year-old Camry and eating dinner at home 6 nights a week doesn't look impressive. But if they're 4 years into a 6-year mortgage payoff sprint, they're on the path to freedom that 95% of Americans will never experience. Success isn't what you drive. It's what you own. It's what you control. It's how many options you have when life punches you in the face. Now, let me address the objections I know you're thinking. Bobby, what about the mortgage interest tax deduction? Won't I lose that? Yes. And you know what's better than a tax deduction? Not paying the interest in the first place. The tax deduction saves you maybe 25% of the interest you paid. You still paid 75% of it to the bank. That's not a win. That's a consolation prize for being in debt. What about inflation? Won't the payment get easier over time as my income increases? Sure. If your income increases, if you don't lose your job, if you don't get sick, if inflation doesn't eat your raises, you're betting on the future to make your current debt easier to manage. That's hope, not a plan. What about diversification? Isn't it smarter to keep the mortgage and invest in stocks and real estate and other assets? Maybe, if you're a sophisticated investor with iron discipline and high risk tolerance. But most people aren't. Most people are just trying to get by. And for most people, eliminating the single largest debt in their life and freeing up thousands of dollars per month in cash flow is the highest return, lowest risk investment they can make. What if I need the liquidity? What if I have an emergency and my money is locked up in home equity? First, you're going to build an emergency fund before you start the payoff sprint. That's non-negotiable. Second, if you own your house free and clear, you can always get a HELOC or refinance if you need cash. But the difference is, you're accessing it from a position of strength, not desperation. You own the asset. The bank doesn't own you.